This video tutorial I will explain AWS S3 Object Lambda. AWS S3 Object Lambda allows you to modify and process files in S3 when they are requested without storing extra copies. Instead of keeping multiple versions of the file, S3 Object Lambda automatically changes the file before sending it to user. For example, if you store high resolution images in S3, you can use S3 Object Lambda to resize them on the fly when users request them. Now we will see how does S3 Object Lambda work. The user requests a file from S3. The S3 Object Lambda runs a AWS Lambda function to process the file. The Lambda modifies the file, for example, resizing the image or filtering sensitive data. The modified file is returned to the user instead of the original file. The original file remains unchanged in S3. Why we have to use S3 Object Lambda? First point is save storage space. No need to store different version of the same file. Next point is customize data per user. Different users can see different version of the same file based on the rules. Next point is works with existing applications. No need to change how the application accesses the S3. Next point is supports various use cases. You can filter, format, modify, or convert data before delivering it. What are the use cases for S3 Object Lambda? First point is watermarking images. Add a watermark to images without storing separate watermarked versions. Second point is resizing images. Provide different image sizes for different devices without keeping extra copies. Third point is filtering data. Hide sensitive information such as masking personal data in documents. Fourth point is format conversion. Convert files on demand, such as converting a JSON file into a CSV file before download. How to set up S3 Object Lambda? Step 1 is create an AWS Lambda function. For that, you have to go to AWS Lambda console, then create function and choose author from the scratch. Then select the runtime. The runtime can be Python, Node.js or Java. Then you have to write the code that processes the requested file. Then you have to deploy the Lambda function. Step 2 is create an S3 Object Lambda access point. For that, go to AWS S3 console, click Access Points and choose Create Object Lambda Access Point. Then select your S3 bucket. Then attach Lambda function that will process the files. Then click on Create Access Point. Then whenever the file is requested through access point, the Lambda function will modify the file before deliver the file to the user. Things to keep in mind. No extra storage cost because you do not need to store modified version of the files. Lambda processing cost apply because you are charged for the execution time of the Lambda function. Limited to get request because S3 Object Lambda only works when retrieving files, not modifying them directly. Requires IAM permissions because Lambda need permission to read files from S3. Here you can see AWS console. Click on Lambda. Click on create function. To create a Lambda function, follow these steps. Here you have to provide a function name. Here you have to choose runtime. Runtime can be Java or Node.js or .NET, etc. Click on create function. The function has been successfully created and you have to write the code or upload the code which will process the file from S3. Go to S3 and already one bucket is there. Click on Object Lambda Access Points. Create Object Lambda Access Point. Here you have to provide the name. You have to follow the steps provided here, and you have to create object lambda access point.